Hello Year 9 and welcome to Lesson 2 of your home learning. I hope you're all well and thank you for accessing the video. Let's get cracking. You will need with you your copy of the Noughts and Crosses text, which is in the work pack that was sent home from school over the last few days. If you don't have it, or if you do, I would strongly suggest that before you start this video you listen to the recording, the voice recording that Miss Fellows has done where she reads the extract for you. Okay, so just to recap where we are, we're still in week 1. Last lesson with Mr. Thompson, you thought about what inequality and injustice are and how they're often seen in modern society. Today we're going to read an extract from Noughts and Crosses where inequality and injustice are rife, and we're going to think about making some really nice clear inferences based on that text and based on the feelings within it. Making inferences is a really key skill in English. It applies to pretty much all of your reading questions. And if you can get this nailed now, it's a really good baseline working towards GCSE, and it makes your GCSE work significantly easier. Okay, so what is an inference? I'm going to give you a few seconds just to have a think about that question. Okay, so an inference is something we work out from what is said in a text. So when you say something, there's always the surface meaning, all right? So if I asked you to open a window, the surface meaning's pretty obvious. I'd like you to open a window. It's quite clear, right? But what can you work out from that? So you might be able to work out that perhaps I'm feeling quite warm and would like the window open to cool me down a little bit. You might be able to work out that I'd like some fresh air. You might be able to work out that the room perhaps doesn't smell very nice and I'd like to get rid of it. So those are all things that you can work out based on what I've said, so those are inferences. I've not said them directly, you've worked them out based on what I have said. So on to our text from today. This is one of my favourite books. It's a wonderful book. If you haven't read it, I would strongly recommend that you do. There was also quite recently a BBC series, I think it was 6 episodes, where this was turned into a TV serial. I'd well recommend it if you can. So, what do we always do first with a new text? First thing we know is read the context, all right? It's going to tell us a little bit about the text, it's going to tell us a bit of background, and it's going to help us to understand what the text is about when we do start to read. I'm going to quickly read through the context now. What I'd like you to do once I've finished is to pause the video and to write down 3 significant things that we learn from that context, okay? So 3 things that you think are going to be valuable as you start to read. This book by Mallory Blackman is set in a flipped world where the black crosses are the ruling class who have all the powerful positions and good jobs in society, and the white noughts are society's underclass. This chapter sees Callum, a nought, reflecting on his life after having been among the first group of pupils to start at a cross school. Pause the video now and write down 3 things we learn. Okay, all done. Let's see how you got on. So what could you have written? The book's by Mallory Blackman. It's set in a flipped world. You could have written down that the crosses are black and are the ruling class. You could have written down that the crosses have all the powerful positions and good jobs in society. The noughts are white and are the underclass. Callum is a nought. He's thinking about his life in this extract. He was among the first group of pupils to start at a school that was for the crosses. Give yourself a tick for each one you got. Good work. If you haven't already, what I'd like you to do at this point is to pause the video, and I'd like you to read the Noughts and Crosses text. Do remember that there is a video also on the website here where Miss Fellows has read this out. So if you prefer to listen to that as an audio clip, that's absolutely fine. But either way, I'd like you to stop here just for a minute and to read the text carefully, please. As we read, start to think about what are Callum's feelings. Label them on the text, write the notes at the side, and underline key bits, but what can we work out about Callum's feelings? Pause it there for me, please. You'll see down the right hand side a list of some of the feelings that I thought were in that first part. So I thought that he seemed obsessed, desperate to learn, negative about the future, pessimistic, so feeling very negative, looking on the bleak side, the opposite of optimistic, and very confused. What I'd like you to do is to pause the video here and see if you can identify those 5 different feelings within this paragraph of text. So it's just that first section down to I would ever be allowed, and you're looking for obsessed, desperate to learn, negative about the future, pessimistic and confused. Pause the video there. Okay, let's see how you got on. Don't forget that you might have had things that are slightly different to mine, and that's probably okay as long as you can justify it. The beauty of English, it's one of those subjects where there's no single right answer. So as long as you can justify why you've said shows that feeling, then it doesn't mean you're wrong, okay? You might be slightly different to me and that's fine. So for obsessed, I thought the best quote was all I could think about or even dream about was going to school. He sounds like that's been the main focus of his life for the last year. It sounds like it's all he's been conscious of, that maybe other things have been let slip a little bit because of this obsession about going to that cross school. Okay, for desperate to learn, I said a yawning hole deep inside me was begging to be filled up with words and thoughts and ideas and facts and fictions. There's so much in this quote. You could start off with the metaphor about the yawning hole, that is like there's something missing from him, there's something empty, there's something that he's not getting at the moment. The list at the end, words and thoughts and ideas and facts and fictions, shows how enthusiastic he is about wanting to learn lots of different things. Negative about the future. It wasn't as if I'd get a decent job after it. No cross would ever employ me for more than the most mundane, menial job, so why bother? How could I ever be truly happy knowing that I could do so much more, be so much more, than I would ever be allowed? Okay, so he sounds very negative here, doesn't he? He's aware that crosses often, they don't get prestigious or very well paid jobs because of the inherent racism in the society that we're learning about. He doesn't have hope. Why bother? It feels pointless to him. He doesn't feel like he's going to get anything decent anyway. And he also at the end talks about how he can't be happy knowing that he can't fulfill his potential, that he can't do the great things that he knows he's capable of, because of the limitations placed on him by a very racist society. Okay, so we said pessimistic was the opposite of optimistic. So pessimistic is where you always look on the very negative side. So you could argue the quotes on the last slide would also apply to that as well. So if that's what you had, you absolutely were not wrong. And what was the point anyway? He sounds very negative. He sounds like he feels like it's pointless. It sounds like he doesn't want to take any positive steps because society is so against him. So for confused, it can often be shown by a question. That's what I went for here. Why had my life suddenly become so complicated? The why word in particular shows that confusion. He doesn't understand. He doesn't know how or why this has happened, why things have gone the way they've gone, why things have gone from sounding like it's been reasonably simple up to becoming incredibly complex, complicated and all over the place. So you can see that by close reading that few lines of text, we've found a number of different feelings. There might have been different feelings that you picked out at the beginning as well. So within that very, very short bit of text, we've picked out lots of different things. That's as a result of reading it really closely, thinking really carefully about it. And that's a really key skill for inference. You've got to look very closely at what is being said, and think about, okay, well, what can we work out? All right, this time it's your turn to come up with the feelings. I'd like you to pause it here, and I'd like you to think about in the second half of that text, that extract, what kind of feelings you think you can see. I'll pop a slide on that'll have some suggestions to help you out if you wish. If you can, try and do it without that. But I'd like you to pause and think about the different feelings that you can find. They can be Callum's feelings, they can be other people's feelings. Again, use the words on the right if you wish. You certainly don't have to. And once you've done that, I'd like you to test how you've done. So go to joinmyquiz.com and enter the code 003646. That code will allow you to enter a quiz, and you can answer some questions about general inferences and also about that last bit of text that you've just read. So it's joinmyquiz.com and it's code 003646. Thanks for listening all.